Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started because I know I promised everybody this one would be as quick as possible because we have so many grant deadlines everybody's working on. So quick updates. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, March 27th. They're always the last Wednesday of the month. That one will be in person at 4 o'clock. You know, we always start with kind of a happy hour meet and greet. So the meeting actually doesn't start till about 4:30. I'm still working on trying to get a brown bag session on using AI in grant writing and fundraising, and just haven't been able to find the right people to make that happen, but I'm still working on that. And then I don't really have much update on Arts Advocacy Day, but the date has moved back 2 days to April 23rd. That's a Tuesday, because Taka's Silver Cup Luncheon event is on the Thursday that we had originally planned. So we can't have both of those on the same day. So we moved back 2 days. It will be at the Latino Cultural Center. We're still working on getting the Jack Alder Award recipient selected, and still working on a keynote speaker, hopefully doing something around arts and your brain on art is kind of the theme this year. I don't think we have an update from Texans for the Arts today because there's not a legislative session going on. There really hasn't been anything significant since last month when they were here. So we'll just dispense with that.
Can I just pop in real quick
Sure.
with a little update? They are TFA is starting a program. It's kind of called the Leads, but what we're trying to do is make sure that there is an arts person who, for every state representative district, to make sure somebody is tied so that that person then starts establishing relationships with all those. So it's something we're doing. We've got a lot of members in terms of representatives and senators here, but we also have a lot of arts people here. So I think that's actually going to be pretty easy for us, but they're going to be doing that around the state. But that's a big initiative that we want to really get members engaged so that we're not just showing up in, at the beginning of the legislative session and cold without any relationship. So we may be reaching out to you to, kind of as we look around some of the districts, looking for people to kind of be that liaison and that contact. So that's just a quick update from TFA.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. Before we jump into the bond stuff, Hector, can you give us an update on the Moody Art Fund?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so once again, I just put it in the chat in case some joined earlier before the meeting officially started. I just put the Moody Fund for the Arts website in the chat. That, if you look through it, will give you all the eligibility requirements, and will also give you a link to get to the application itself. The deadline is next Friday, March the 8th at noon. So please get it in. We have actually quite a few already in the pipeline, which is really great that people aren't waiting till the last minute. But do yourself a favor. Don't wait till the last minute. I look forward to seeing some great applications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hector. And the NEA project grants are due tonight at 11:59 if you've been working on one of those. TACA grant process is now open, and that's due in March. I don't have the date at my fingertips. Texas Commission on the Arts, Arts Create second year grants are due by March 1st, so Friday. And I feel like I'm forgetting one other grant that's due right now, but anyway, a bunch of them due right now. So make sure everybody's staying on those. We want everybody to get all the money they can. And with that, I want to go on to the bond program update. So Marika, if you could pull up the list. So the good news is all of our advocacy efforts paid off. We did end up with our 6% allocation for the bond. That's about $75 million that will be distributed across 15 arts organizations. So I thought it would be helpful to know where that money is going to go and what it's going to fix. So we have this wonderful list here that Chris helped put together. So at AdPac Salmons Park and parking, we'll get some updates, water infiltration, sidewalks, HVAC, etc. The bathhouse, we know the bathhouse has long needed a lot of repairs since it dates back to 1930. So water infiltration is a theme in pretty much every single one of these. So that's a big one there. Dallas Black Dance Theater also has roof repairs, HVAC, technology and security, elevators, that water infiltration issue again, and restoring floors. So about 3.13 million, 130,000 for them. Dallas Museum of Art, this was just a drop in the bucket to what they needed, but we're very happy that we were able to pull 20 million towards many of their issues. A lot of that is fire suppression and things that are very important to maintaining the art collection. And remember that most of that art collection is actually owned by the citizens of Dallas. So this is very important, and it's valued at billions of dollars.
And it's important to know on that one, this is not about their vision or their expansion that they would like to do in the future. This is what is taking care of what is there now, and they're going to focus on making sure, try to make sure that those repairs are stuff that's not going to be ripped out in 5 years, but that is for the infrastructure they have in place right now. And so they're that's important to know.
Yeah, bond money has to be used for things that have a minimum 20-year lifespan. So big capital items. Kalita Humphreys, and we know that it has many millions more in needs than this, but we also know there will eventually be a major renovation. So this addresses only things that would be permanent, and a lot of water infiltration issue on the exterior. But ADA enhancements, we know that that's a real problem over there. We know that there's some really bad stuff going on in their dressing rooms and bathrooms. So that addresses those things that will be permanent, that would not be changed if there was a renovation. The Latino Cultural Center, we think of it as new, but it's actually 20 years old. And it has a lot of roof foundation issues. So that's 4.2 million going there. Majestic Theater, we know that there's, for one thing, we know that elevator has been broken most of the time for the last 25 years. So, and I think there's only one in the main part. So for OAC personnel, that's five floors up that they have to climb up those stairs every day when that's not working. And again, a lot of water infiltration, major roof problems there. So, and some ADA issues. So they'll be getting 8.4 million. The Meyerson, this was stuff that was supposed to be in the last bond package. Money was allocated, and then the city never addressed it. So getting, again, water infiltration, the big problem. Now it's affecting their acoustic chambers. So we'll finally be able to address that, 7.3 million. So keep going, Marika. Moody Performance Hall, again, we think of it as brand new. It's actually now 12 years old. So it has HVAC needs, roof repairs, refinishing floors, etc. So 2.3 million there. Oak Cliff Cultural Center, even though it's a relatively small facility, it has a lot of needs too, and ADA being one of them, in bathrooms. And then there's some real bad problems with their parking lot. So 450,000 there. Salmon Center, our building's 115 years old. We've done everything on the interior, and we continue to take care of all the major things here. Just put a whole bunch of new carpet in last week. But that exterior, we have cracks I can put my hand in. So 3.79 million for Salmon Center. And then the South Dallas Cultural Center, again, has needed a lot of love for a long time. And same old things, water infiltration, HVAC, ADA stuff, bathrooms. This is all stuff that's already existing, nothing new. This is all deferred maintenance that has been happening to our facilities for years and years. And then moving on, Strauss Square has a need for HVAC, restrooms, security, lighting, rigging, etc. We wouldn't want anyone to get hurt there. The Windspear, also has elevators, HVAC, security, fire suppression, and roof repairs. And then the Wiley, the famous elevator issues there that we're all familiar with if you spend any time there. The windows, HVAC, roof, fire alarm, fire suppression, etc. So 75.2 million. And this is, we have not had this kind of investment ever in the maintenance and upkeep of these buildings. Even when we've had a relatively large allocation in the bond package in previous years, it has gone to things like actually building the Moody Performance Hall. So, so this is a real milestone for us, and probably we won't have another shot at this for many, many years. This was our year to try and get some money for the arts. This addresses almost half of the cost of the deferred maintenance costs that have piled up on our arts facilities. Although some of the projects that are on the books for those are more like additions and things like that, or they're not 20-year lifespan things. So hopefully now that we can get a handle on these repairs and maintenance issues going forward, if we can just start through general fund allocations, keeping up with the repairs so we don't get to this point again in the future, then we can start whittling away at some of the other things that did not get into this this round of bond funding. So so this is major that we were able to get the city council to agree on this, but we're not done yet. So the next step is we've got to get this to the voters, and we have to get them to approve it. And the arts, with the exception, I think, one bond offering many years ago, have always just squeaked through on bond elections, but have almost always been the item that got the least amount of votes. So we have a lot of work to do. And I know, Chris, you've been working on with some others on ideas on how we are going to address this. So I'm going to let you tell everybody what our next advocacy steps are in terms of getting this approved by the voters.
Sure. Thanks, Joanna. Yeah, we are working and putting together a kind of a campaign strategy. We are working with the larger campaign that is looking at the whole bond, but we also recognize that probably between parks and us, we have the best reach out into our communities. We have patrons, we have stakeholders, people who use these facilities, and we're going to need everybody to leverage that in this. And we're going to fix our timing because we need to get this primary out of the way, right? And we need to get closer to the election when it gets busy. But we are going to ask everyone to work with social media, to reach out to their patrons that are in Dallas. We don't need to be emailing people in Plano and everything, but really hitting those folks up and really tapping into that and making them understand. And this is part of our messaging, is that it's not the biggest amount of money for the arts, because that may not sit well with people. What we do know sits well with people. This is the most significant investment that we've made in the arts. You know, one of the things, and I've said this to people and they always kind of crack up, but it's true, because usually, you know, Dallas is always the shiny and new things, right? But we don't know how to take care of our stuff. But we do like to build things. But going into this, it's like, you'll notice on the list that Joanna went through, it's some very common themes: HVAC, water infiltration, security, boring stuff, but stuff that's absolutely essential. And so that's really kind of what our message is going to be around this. We're taking care of what we've got, and but pushing that out and getting people to show up at the polls. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through with each of these facilities and find key stakeholders who use those facilities. So we're kind of creating a committee. And bathhouse, you know, I know Teresa knows how to reach out to her bathhouse people and make sure that they vote for the bond, but especially Prop E. And we've really got to hit that hard. But we're going to advocate for the whole package, but we're really going to press that Proposition E, which is the one we are, is doing that. So the resident companies, the Latino Cultural Center, the folks that utilize the Wiley, that utilize the Majestic. I know that Lyric Stage is not out there as much anymore, but they still utilize it, and Dallas Black Dance utilizes it. and we utilize it. So we want to make sure that we're connecting with all the audiences and the patrons and the artists and everyone out there, and then get them to extend that beyond that. So we're going to really work hard to get that. We're going to help raise some money for the campaign to get this done. And so we're going to be very engaged and play a very strong role in this. And by the way, that will help us hopefully get this passed, but it also helps when we have a strong voice like that and we're united. We obviously see what's happened. I mean, I don't think any of us thought we were going to get 75 million. And, part of that's because the bond program grew, but we had council members who were locked in saying 6% is 6%, whether it's of 1.1 billion or 1.25. And we got there. Well, that kind of unified voice, we've got budget coming up, right? We've got other things coming up, and the budget's going to start getting tighter. And so having this strong voice, I'm hoping also helps position us down the road to continue to give us strong funding for the arts through the hotel occupancy tax and general fund. But so it's all part of a big strategy, but most importantly, getting this done on May 4th and getting everyone to reach out to their constituents and get them engaged.
And Chris, remind us again what day the election is.
It is just double check. I'm pretty sure it's May 4th. Yeah, it's May 4th. Early voting starts on April 22nd. So we'll be doing that. And I think what we're going to be doing, I mean, we're bouncing ideas with the main campaign group, but I think part of what we're looking at is if they create signs, what we may do is try to get some stickers created that lays on top, pushing, the kind of the arts prop-y. So we're supporting the big bond and then that, because we don't have the money to go out and, pay for campaign signs and stuff like that. But we can do curtain speeches. Okay. We can give out signs at events, Arts Advocacy Day. We can give out signs there that everyone can kind of take out and take home with them. So there's a whole bunch of things that we can really do to activate everybody and get them engaged and do our part to get the whole thing passed, but especially Prop E. And I will say just two things why, because Joanna touched on this, but generally in Dallas, most bond programs pass. Okay. One of the few times it didn't was the proposition to build the Dallas Museum of Art. All right. That went down the tubes. And they ended up coming back a year later, but it was a real signal to everybody. You can't take this for granted. You can't take it for granted. If you look up at Frisco, Allen, and McKinney, they were trying to build a performing arts center together. Voters shut it down at the polls. At the last Dallas ISD bond campaign, the big bond passed, but the piece for the performing arts didn't. So we can't take anything for granted. We've got to really go out, and it's a good thing that we go out and really show our value and demonstrate our value to our community. So I think that's a good thing.
And it's Prop
Great.
E for excellent.
Yes.
And
Grace has got her hand up.
Yeah, Grace, do you have a question?
Yes. So is it general knowledge? I mean, do most people know and understand about the hotel occupancy tax? It's like in general, do they know there is one and how it works and what it's for?
No.
When you say people, are you
Like the
talking
voters.
about us or are you talking about the big
The
community?
voters.
No.
I don't think they do.
Okay. Because that is so important. I mean, it's been connected. I've been helping with the STR situation. And so then I, through that, learned more about the hot tax, which I didn't really know anything about until I got involved in the STR fight.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, when you talk about that, the funding for the arts always gets the least number of votes. It seems like it would be a really, really good idea to be sure that voters understand there is a tax that helps the arts,
Definitely.
the hot tax.
You know,
And I think it would
New
help a lot.
Yorkers are very resourceful. You're like, I got just the thing to fix. Yeah, it's warm.
That's what I
Thank you.
got when I was in India, where I can control the heat. You
Yeah.
know?
Sorry, say again, Grace?
I was saying that I think it would be a good important in our outreach to the voters to make sure that they are aware of the hot tax and how it works and what it's for, because it's the bond package obviously is huge and we want all of that money to pass, but because the voters, as you said a minute ago, that always gets the least number of votes, and it's difficult to sell the general public on how important the arts are unless they're really involved in it in some
Yeah.
regard. So
Well,
I think it would just be a good idea to put that piece in with the outreach to make sure that when the voters are going to the polls and voting for this, they're aware that there's a hot tax, because a lot of people don't know about it.
Well, I think what I would do is, and we can talk about this, because I do think it's important that people know that we do get strong support from our council and our city when it comes to arts compared to other cities. We didn't used to get any hotel occupancy tax as recent, maybe 7 years ago, Joanna? And then they gave us a little, but under the law, the city can use up to 15% for the hotel, for the arts. And so out of the cultural plan, there was a strategy to go after the hotel occupancy tax for the arts, while at the same time not reducing our general fund. Okay, so it was making the pie bigger. And a lot of this came out of the discussions about equity and everything else. We can all fight over the same piece of pie, or we can make the pie bigger. And we decided we were going to make the pie bigger. And it was a tough fight, but we got it. And that was approved. And we are on our path to getting it. It grows every year. And we should hit the 15%, I think, next year.
Well,
Not this fiscal year, but the next one.
It's after the Visit Dallas contract gets renewed. It's not in this contract. Their contract comes up, I
Right.
think, next year.
But that's all factored in, because I sit on the Visit Dallas board, so they're not pulling back. We're not doing it. We're not going to lose that. My sense is, anyway, we're not going to lose that, and we're on track to get that. I would be probably a little cautious about telling voters about that, because they might assume that we've got enough money. And, oh, you got the hotel tax and you got general fund. Well, you've got this, so we don't need to pass that one. So I would be a little cautious, because that's not something that's before voters. If it was before voters, Grace, I would absolutely agree. But in this case, that's not something that's been put before voters. So I would want to just kind of think that through, to be careful that doesn't come back to bite us and people think that we've got plenty of funding. We already have a challenge, I think, as you all know. We heard this during the bond discussions at the task force, where they think, well, all those rich people in the arts, they ought to be paying for it. Why should we be paying for it? And so we had to sit down and really talk to them about understanding that, endowments, you can't go tap your endowments. They're restricted and things like that, because they just thought we should go do all this. So there was a lot of educating. And that was done within the context of the task force. That's harder to get into those discussions with voters, where their attention is like that.
Well, and the cultural centers, they are run by the city. They don't have endowments.
They don't have endowments.
And that's
so
where the small groups are depending on those.
Yeah. So but some good thoughts there, Grace. And I think we could, discuss on how we might want to utilize that and leverage it at some point. But I would be careful in this discussion, because I do worry they just think, well, you guys are already taken care of. And the reality is that money goes to totally different things.
Yeah, but
Totally
it's not 75 million a year either.
No,
It's a modest amount. It just adds a little, it just tops up the OAC budget a bit. It's not the
Yeah.
primary source. But
we'll be
it's a
reaching
good
out. We'll
point.
probably do a separate meeting about the campaign for those of you who really want to get engaged. And we'll probably do it before the next DACAC meeting because we've only got 2 months, literally almost 2 months till the election. So we've got a very short window that we're going to have to work really hard within.
Grace, do you think we should make a presentation to the commission on this?
You mean the OAC?
Yeah,
Yes, I think that would be a very good idea. Because, you know, there's a lot of, I mean, obviously it's in our best interest to have this, you know, be a slam dunk. And we typically have some great ideas that come out of our commission meetings. So yeah, I think absolutely. Would you like to come and speak about it, or?
one of us,
Or-
when we
or-
have our plan a little further together here on the strategy and the methodologies, I think that would be a good time to come. So the next one would be what, the third Thursday in March?
That
Yeah.
sounds right. They're once a month, usually the third Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Grace, here's how I would suggest you approach it with Martine and them is to, as an informational session, the city staff is and city council members are restricted in how they can go out and advocate for this because it's an election thing at the polls. They can do informational things, but they have to be careful on kind of saying, we want you to go out and vote for this. So that's why you might kind of set it up as an informational session on what's in there in terms of the bond that would impact OAC and that kind of stuff, as opposed to saying, we want you to vote yes. Because I know that the city
Okay.
attorney has been telling them that they're putting some guardrails on how they can discuss this.
but informational we can do.
Now, us,
Right.
we
And-
can advocate.
Yeah, we can advocate because we can always advocate in our own best interest. And this is definitely in our own best interest.
Well, if we could get Paul involved in some way that's on the informational level, he would be certainly willing to do that because, of course, we're District 14, we're the arts district. So, I mean, if there's some way that he could help us with that without there being a conflict, then I'm sure he would be happy to do that. So, but that's, you kind of want to think on that and see what you come up with. But yeah, and just let me know if I can talk to Martine, but you might want to figure out when you definitely want to speak, whomever's going to speak at the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
And Stacy, I don't want to put you on the spot, but is it possible that we could make a presentation or somehow get some get some information to business council members?
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably the best way is for me. I don't have a board meeting before, unfortunately, a large board meeting, which would have been perfect to present at that. But perhaps maybe we could offline about the best way to
Okay.
communicate, because I think that's the right group.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Since before we move on to another topic, because it's related to this. Since I don't have a cultural facility in District 5, but there are, I would like to know what the language is going to look like. I mean, do we know what the language will be on the bond and when we're voting?
We don't know yet. It's
okay.
something there's state laws around the language on bond election balloting. And so they actually have an outside counsel who's working on that now. And
Okay.
so it'll probably be a week or so before we know that.
Yeah,
Chris?
I think they actually have it. So we can go. I'll go look, but I think they're there.
Okay.
So
Because I think, like, from my community, like, we're like worker bees, like we understand the value of fixing things
Yeah.
And so, you know, like that's a lot of folks in my community, I think, are contractors, and they do the actual kind of work that we're talking about.
Mhm.
So I was just thinking about the avenues and also the ways in which I can say, you know, Karamia comes to our community to do a lot of work here. These
Mhm.
organizations that use these facilities, when they don't have to spend their money, you know, on
Mhm.
facilities, then their programming can come out. I'm just thinking also of ways to make them not think about their street,
Right.
you know,
Right.
when they're looking at the money first. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up, and if you can help me. And then also I'm on the LAC as a commissioner, as a volunteer. I can still talk about this. I'm not as bound as the employees. Am I right?
Correct.
I guess I can ask the lawyers there, but okay.
Ask. Just to
Thanks.
keep yourself from getting in trouble, I would ask. And
Okay.
again, it depends on how you're talking about it. If you're doing it informationally, you know, obviously you're putting it out there, so they probably figure you're in favor
I'm
of
bringing
it,
it up.
or
Yeah.
you wouldn't be bringing it up. But I would just to keep yourself safe. You don't want to step
Yeah.
over any.
But having
ethical lines.
information to at least answer their questions about, you know, how is this benefiting the people in this district? So what you just went over, that some of the organizations that, you know, come and do programming depend on the facilities. You know, there are artists that live in your district who perform in these facilities or use these facilities. You know, there's I think having information just to answer questions. And that's probably true of all the commissioners, and all the more reason why we probably need to do a presentation there and then the city could at that point clarify what are any of the legal guidelines that commissioners need to be aware of.
And we'll
I
provide
would
everybody with
definitely.
talking points, and
That's what I was
we'll
gonna
have a
say.
speakers
Talking
bureau.
points.
So if you have a group that you say, I want you to come talk to our group, we can come talk to a group for Rotary Club, whatever. Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
Brian had his
Brian,
hand
did you
up.
have a question?
I was just going to make a quick plug for the housing propositions, letters G, H, and I. Some of y'all might know I was one of the main organizers of our Dallas Housing Coalition, and for keeping our artists and performers and entertainers in the city, we need to keep it affordable, and we'd love to attract them and would love your support when you're talking to people for propositions G, which is the economic development proposition. There's some gap financing in there for multifamily mixed income housing. Letters H for housing, so that's an easy one to remember, is for single family neighborhood infrastructure. And then letter I is addressing homelessness, short-term and long-term facilities. So would really appreciate y'all keeping those three in mind. They're at the bottom right after early arts. So I'll be casting my vote for all of them.
We are telling everybody to support them all. You know, and we have all been supportive of the housing elements of the bond program too. But yeah, we've seen you down there at all the meetings, Brian.
Thank y'all. You too.
Any other questions or comments on the bond stuff? So I did see Samantha had a question. Does anyone have any more information about the TTIR?
Does anybody know if I
Did
know
anybody
people
get
got
any funding?
early funding, but did anybody in the very last tranche of funding, did anybody get TTR, IR?
Ours still shows that it's under, I guess under review.
Ours is the same. It just says processing, which is the next step after you submit.
Mhm.
So, just wondered if we had missed out or if it's just still out there being processed. Sounds like it is.
Some groups have actually been denied.
Yeah,
And
we've
turned
been-
down. And then some of us seem to be stuck in this limbo of just, still processing. And TFA has been trying to get information, but this is being handled through the governor's office. And so they just have not been very forthcoming with information.
Okay, well, we will continue to wait. There's nothing that can be done.
Yep.
I would presume so. Just thought I'd check to see if anyone else has heard anything. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think that's everything we were going to cover today. So unless anyone else has any major arts issues we need to discuss, I think we can let you all go and get on with your evening.
Can I say
Thank
one
you.
quick- Can I say
Oh,
one quick
Aaron.
thing?
Sure.
Just, it's like kind of related to the bond thing. We did this thing, right? We got 6% of this bond, and that is really exciting. And you know, Joanna, you said early on that we may not get this chance again in a long time, but like the arts community coming together to make this happen is a thing that we should note and not get rid of. Like, so, you know, as we move forward, I think absolutely what Chris was saying about making sure that obviously that it passes, but like if we've got this, then let's use it. And if we are looking at the next bond package, why shouldn't we say maybe there should be a little bit more art funding in there, and not just assume that that they're going to say, oh, it was your turn. So I just want to say this is an effort that a lot of people have put a lot of time and energy into, and I think we shouldn't assume that we won't have that we can't do more as we go forward. So
That's a good point.
Point. And by the way, so we put in, and I'm right now actually about to mail out thank you notes from the arts community, but we had over 90 groups, over 90 Dallas organizations sign on in support of this. And of course, a lot of those do not use some of these facilities, but they understood that it's important for all of us to support one another. And so that's a huge amount. And I know the council, they've told me when they're sitting there during the council meetings, they love sitting there going through and oh, that group, I know that group, that's in my district. They literally go through and look at the list and are always impressed at especially how we have been able to come together. This arts community used to never, everyone was in their silos. 2017, nobody could, everyone ran after their own thing and we got screwed. This time we stuck together, we locked arms, we've said the same thing, 6%, 6%, 6%. And it has resonated. And yeah, Aaron, we need to kind of keep our mojo together.
Linda?
Yeah, I would just like to thank Chris and Joanna for driving the bus. It's like you all pushed us and pushed us and pushed us, and I applaud you.
Just glad we didn't drive the bus off the cliff.
Yeah, well, the cliff is still there. The cliff is still there. We have to be real careful. As you said, we got to keep going. And I want to thank you all for pushing us. You had a great deal to do with getting everybody together. So thank you.
Well,
Thank you. Bravo. Great job.
thank you. And
Thank you.
Tabitha put in the chat about Congresswoman Nadia Velasquez is introducing a resolution to designate February 28th as National Community Arts Education Day.
Yeah.
And so she put a link in here if you want to endorse it. So everybody please do that.
All right. Don't forget Moody Fund for the Arts.
All right. Thank you,
Your
everybody.
application's in.
and
Take care.
NEA, NTCA.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.